The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information about this case, please contact us at info@smithmediateamllc.com. Listener discretion is advised.
In the early hours of December 8th, 2000, Trevor Deely vanished. The disappearance right before Christmas was one of the highest profile searches for a missing person in recent years in Ireland. Tonight, we delve into the case of Trevor Deely and explore some new theories on the anniversary of his disappearance.
I think this is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries that Ireland has had, if I read correctly in researching this case.
It was a very large search.
Yes, and just very weird circumstances. So it was very interesting to me just because the circumstances were so odd and just some of the things that happened don't quite make sense.
And we have a couple of new theories to bring to the table. Maybe not new, but maybe expanded on some of the theories that have been out there before.
Yeah, we'll discuss our thoughts.
But first, can we just discuss the new studio for just a second? New table, new monitor, new mics. Exciting.
It's fancy dancy. Well, for us, it's fancy dancy.
And I think more than anything, the excitement has spread to one of our rescue dogs, Bandit, who is in here right now. He is curled up on some blankets because it is a little chilly in the studio, so something we have to work on. But he is very much enjoying the studio as well.
He is. He has learned the words on air, so he is being a very good boy, and he will be handsomely rewarded after this, but we can't say with what because certain words he knows.
Bird is popcorn. His ears just went up.
Please don't send us hate mail for feeding our dog popcorn. Trust me, it's not his meal. If you've seen commercials for the farmer's dog and see what those dogs eat, trust me, ours have been eating like that for as long as we've had them, and we make the food for them. So
yeah, basically anytime we eat, they eat, and we're safe about it. Obviously, we don't take our puppies in. We don't adopt them just to harm them with food. They're handsomely rewarded for good behavior, and most of the time, just coming in the kitchen.
Also known as the food room.
Very true.
Yes.
Do we have any new listeners?
We do, and want to welcome them aboard.
We had one that really intrigued me because there was a case that we were looking into, and I felt like that city in Kentucky was fairly close to one of the cases that we maybe had chatted about in the prior episode, or something that we had shown interest in. But I did notice that we had some new listeners in a certain area of Kentucky where there is a case that we are looking into.
Yes. So we have and want to welcome our new listeners from Tompkinsville, Kentucky. Okay. And also Spring Grove, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Panama City, Panama.
Panama. Panama.
And also Cape Town, South Africa.
Home of AWA wrestler, legend, Colonel De Beers. Colonel De Beers and Baron von Raschke. Baron von Raschke was not from Cape Town, South Africa. Let me just make that clear. Baron von Raschke does not sound like someone that would be from Cape Town, South Africa.
Well,
Colonel De Beers. Ladies and gentlemen, there's your wrestling reference during our true crime podcast.
There's a lot of true crime in wrestling, so...
Listen, if you have an interest in true crime and you also have any kind of minimal interest in the world of professional wrestling, if you are not watching Dark Side of the Ring on Vice, you are missing out.
Even if you're not a wrestling fan and you're a kind of a true crime fan, it's still entertaining. It'll get you thinking.
Now, for the casual fan, one of the episodes that you will recognize is about Owen Hart, and one of the other episodes you will recognize is about Chris Benoit. Ugh. I will tell you that the most fascinating episode that I think I've watched, and I'm going to get emails from wrestling fans, but I lived during this time period. I watched wrestling during this time period. I will plant my flag in the ground that the most interesting and fascinating and sad episode of Dark Side of the Ring is about Bruiser Brody.
Oh, God. Oh, sorry. You just hit my soul. Yeah. That's not where I thought you were going. That is not where I thought you were going. But yeah, that one. And I thought you were going with Daphne.
That one was a very tragic story, and I did watch wrestling while Daphne was in her heyday. But the story about Bruiser Brody is
gut wrenching.
It very, very much is, and I'm not going to say any more about that, because if you do enjoy true crime, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, the story of Bruiser Brody is incredibly sad and a lot of questions. And the main suspect in the case is, at that time, was hosting children's birthday parties. So jump into that whenever you get ready.
Speaking of a lot of unanswered questions, we have some here in the case of Trevor Deely. We are coming up on the 25th anniversary of his disappearance after leaving. Was it a work Christmas party?
It was. So Trevor Deely was your typical teenager, came from a family of one of 4 children, and 6 feet tall, reddish blonde hair. Not necessarily athletic, but he was very good in school, was more interested in math, arithmetic than he was in sports. Went to college for a couple of years, and his sister encouraged him to take a computer course. Mm-hmm. And when he did, he really found his niche with the computer course. That was something he really enjoyed, and ended up after the computer course with a couple of job offers. Did what most kids do and asked his dad for some guidance. And his dad said, out of the job offers, take the job at the bank, because the bank is the most stable. Now, if you are part of our Facebook page, The Last Clue on Facebook, might not necessarily think that's the case, because we have reposted a fascinating story from Nobody Special that details the fall of a bank in a small town in Oklahoma. And it's interesting to me because the story that he recorded was about a year ago, and the guy couldn't have been more on point with what he saw with that bank closure. And now you're starting to see all these articles about this bank closure and an arrest, etc. This guy was on top of it a year ago.
Yeah.
It's truly a deep dive, but if you want to find that link, that is on our Facebook page, The Last Clue.
It is.
So Trevor had small group of friends that he would go out with, really enjoying his job at the bank, because his boss described him as nearly the perfect employee. He was on time. He didn't know a challenge that he couldn't find a solution to. He was friendly. He tried to help everybody. And this is a small group. This is about 10 people.
And at 22, to be that reliable, back then, that was unheard of. So model employee in Trevor with his close group of friends were they out at the bar hopping after the Christmas party? So
Trevor had a Christmas party with his bank.
Okay.
And this was December 7th. And before the Christmas party, I don't know. I've been to a few Christmas parties. I mean, there's one that in my mind that's obviously head and shoulders above the rest that I went to for many years. But for the most part, Christmas parties are kind of a lackluster. I mean, you go, you eat finger foods, you might have a meal, and there may be a little bit of music. You exchange gifts.
You're kind of on your best behavior at a work Christmas party, and then you go out and have your friend Christmas party.
You don't typically get sauced and jump up on the table with Def Leppard playing in the background and perform a second-rate striptease at a Christmas party. If you do and you get away with it, that's great. Most likely you're going to end up in HR. So
I feel attacked.
Before Trevor's Christmas party, a few people went to Copperface Jack's first, which was a popular place in that area. And then they go to the Hilton Hotel for a meal. I think they had a band, and I don't know how highfalutin this Christmas party was, but they had a meal and a band, so the bank put a little bit of money into it anyway.
Okay.
So the other thing to think about while we're telling this story, well, there's a couple of things. There's a lot of things, but there's a couple of things to think about environmentally when you go into this story. One, it was raining cats and dogs at the time of this Christmas party into the early morning hours of the next day. We're talking torrential rain and wind gusts of somewhere between 60 and 70 miles an hour.
I wouldn't just call that a storm.
No. And also, there was a taxi strike in Dublin.
Okay.
So just think about this for a second. When you're in Dublin and it's Christmas season, a lot of times the taxi drivers are the only ones that are sober. Let's just
allegedly.
Let's just say, well, we hope so. Let's just say that the taxi drivers, when they're posted up at their spots, they're the ones that see what the police can't.
Okay, that's fair. That's
because
fair.
they're sitting in front of all the buildings. They're trying to make money, just like we all are. And as a matter of fact, I think there was a reference that then President Bill Clinton,
oh yeah,
was in town,
getting ready to be in town. So yeah, that made things a little difficult at the time with being very stormy, taxi strike, all of the things are happening. So
So you're looking at a lack of witnesses, because with the taxi strike, you don't have those cars out there on the sidewalk to notice what's happening or not happening.
very true.
So after bar hopping a little bit after the Christmas party, Trevor goes back to his bank where he works, pouring down rain. He talked to a computer operator named Carl Pender, who was part of the IT team. So he's part of the team with Trevor, and Carl was working the night shift, and he came in at approximately about 3:25 in the morning, which we have said over and over again, nothing good happens after midnight.
I don't care how good the friends are that you're with, whether you've been with them since you were an adolescent, like he had with his close friends, and just nothing good happens after midnight. And if Glenn and Conleth, if you're listening, I apologize. I know you guys were great friends with Trevor, but still, nothing good happens after midnight.
So he comes in soaking wet. And Carl was honestly surprised to see him.
Sure.
I mean, if you see somebody at 3:25 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, that's typically not great news. But Trevor came in, asked if he wanted to have a cup of coffee, cup of tea. They apparently settled down in one of the break rooms. Now, Trevor went to his computer and said he had to log on to his computer for a minute. Again, okay. I don't know what you do at 3:30 in the morning, but there we are. So logs on his computer, not sure exactly what he did.
And I think Carl said that he wasn't sure if he was doing anything that had to do with work or sending an email, and that he had never asked him. So what did Trevor do at his computer that evening? And he just literally said, I don't know if he sent an email or not. I can't recall what the guards said. And that's what his sister had said, Michelle. So she said it wasn't anything significant, so they put that away. And it wasn't like he had sent an email about any plans. It was nothing significant at all.
Which I don't necessarily agree with. If you're getting on the computer at 3:30 in the morning, it's something that is important to you. Because I'm not going to wake up at 3:25 in the morning and go log on to the computer if it's not something that means something to me. Now, it could have been an eBay auction. It could have been checking to see if the weather was going to let up. I get that, but whatever it was significant to him.
Sure, and he had stopped by the office to, at minimum, grab an umbrella because of the torrential downpour. So Trevor and Carl in the office, Trevor has coffee, Carl has tea. Carl said he wasn't drunk. He had a few, but he wasn't overly intoxicated. They talked about the party, and then Trevor does what you would do in a torrential rainstorm. The office had all of these promotional umbrellas. He grabs one and takes off out into the night. Yeah, and at this time, of course, your friends are home and asleep. And so Trevor is left to his own devices, and he is out to walk home. Again, taxi strike, rain. So he has to walk home.
So if you look up this case on YouTube, and we may post the link on our Facebook page as well, but there is footage of Trevor going into the bank, but there's also a shadowy figure standing at the gate. Yes. When Trevor goes into the bank to go talk to Carl. And again, Carl said he didn't notice anything wrong. He went and checked the email. They went and had nice non-alcoholic drink, grabs an umbrella, and he leaves. So there didn't seem to be any immediate danger at that point. But you do see on the closed circuit TV that there is someone standing at the gate at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, and it looked like they had a little interaction, just shared some words, whatever the case may be, but they spoke very briefly, whoever this was that was standing at the gate, and CCTV does show that.
I can tell you at 3:30 in the morning, I'm not talking to anybody.
You're not talking to anybody at 3:30 in the afternoon.
No, absolutely not.
So he goes into the office after speaking with this person that was standing at the gate, does his thing, grabs his umbrella, leaves.
And on the closed circuit TV, you see him coming and going out of the bank gate because you have to punch in some kind of code or
key in, key out, whatever
it is. I'm sure at a bank, I would hope so.
I would, yeah.
And then you see another closed circuit camera showing Trevor walking down the street with the umbrella in tow, but you can tell it's Trevor. After you've watched the footage as much as we have, you can tell it's Trevor. And then about 30 seconds later,
maybe,
somebody in dark clothes again is walking behind him. Now, it seems like the police have kind of dismissed this as this wasn't someone that had anything to do with anything.
Yes, they apparently investigated this person and found that he had no relevance to this case whatsoever. However, that closed-circuit TV footage of him is the last known footage of Trevor ever.
Now, where this story gets odd, if it's not odd enough already, is that we're coming up on the anniversary. There has been no trace of Trevor anywhere. Not him, and I hate to say this, but not his body, none of his personal effects, his phone, wallet, key, nothing.
No clothing,
nothing.
Like he vanished into thin air.
This is either the most intricate alien abduction of all time, because there were no flashy lights. There's no reports in the city of seeing flashy lights and seeing a big beam come down and pull Trevor into the sky. There are no reports of this. There has been no trace of Trevor whatsoever, and we're on 25 years.
Right, and it's even more odd because on that walk home, he did phone his very best friend, Glenn, and his last name escapes me at the moment, but his very best friend, Glenn, who happened to be a flight attendant. And I believe Trevor called him on his way home Did not reach Glenn.
That's Glenn Cullen.
Glenn Cullen, thank you. And Trevor left him a message stating, I've missed you there, just on my way home. All is going good. I'll talk to you tomorrow, or, something to that effect. So nothing alarming from Trevor saying, hey, I'm in trouble. Hey, I'm in danger. Hey, you're never going to see me again. Nothing that would indicate self-harm or indicate that he had plans on going away.
And let's timestamp that. That voicemail, I'm going to let you have that part. That voicemail was timestamped sometime between 3:55 in the morning and 4:05 in the morning. And his friend can't be certain when that message was left. Why?
Because he deleted it after he listened to it.
His best friend leaves him a message at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Glenn went,
I'll talk to him today.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, why didn't Glenn answer the phone? I know he's home asleep. I don't know about you, but if my phone rings at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm answering it because...
If I'm not home, please, if I call you at 4 o'clock in the morning, please answer it.
Yes.
Or please call me back.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't sound like anything's wrong, something's wrong. So, but you know why, other than being asleep, why Glenn did not answer the phone?
I do, but I like to hear you tell it.
So that particular night, Glenn's phone, which needed to be charged once every week to week and a half, was charging downstairs in the kitchen.
That night
that
his friend went missing, just so happened that phone was downstairs charging.
And Glenn himself said, I had never, ever left it downstairs on the charge before. He slept through the sound of his phone ringing downstairs. I have said this 100 times. I don't believe in coincidence. So we have that. And furthermore, so just a little bit more of a backstory. His friend Glenn and Conleth were the two people that he hung out with the most. They were the very best of friends. Never argued, nothing of the sort. Didn't Trevor also take a trip during that summer leading up to this whole disappearance?
And I want to add one thing before I get into that trip.
Okay.
The night of this incident, and I want to be clear that goes from December 7th through December 8th. We're calling that the night.
Okay.
So this is technically December 7th. Trevor called Glenn at one point. Glenn said he couldn't hear him because of the office party at the Hilton and said, Trev, I'll call you back. And he thinks, this guy has no concept of time, he thinks it was between 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. And then nothing.
So your best friend has called you twice.
Yeah.
And you haven't talked to him. Your phone is on. I'm going to stop right now.
I mean, if he owes you money, I'd definitely take the call. But I find it odd that the night of your best friend who, also, helps you, you help him. He doesn't take two calls the night of the disappearance. Now, that could be coincidence. It very much could be coincidence. I just,
That doesn't sit right with me. Let us tell you a little bit more about what happens with Glenn and his friends and Trevor, and give you a little bit more of the backstory here so you can probably see where I'm going with this. Let's talk about the summer.
Yeah, so that summer, Trevor met some co-eds that were on holiday. We call it vacation. They call it holiday. Doesn't matter.
Same thing.
So Trevor meets some co-eds from Alaska. And I would say as we get into the story, takes somewhat of a liking to them because he talks to his friend Glenn, who was a long-haul flight attendant for Aer Lingus. And Glenn is able to get free and discounted flights for family and friends being an employee. So shortly before Trevor's disappearance, Glenn arranges for Trevor to be on his discount pass. So Trevor's taking a trip to Alaska all of a sudden. This is November 2000. Last time Glenn saw Trevor was at the Dublin airport going through customs.
In late November of 2000.
Right.
Now,
Trevor goes from Dublin to LAX, one of the most famous airports in the world. And then that's pretty much the last time he saw him.
So the last time you saw your best friend is in late November of 2000 until his disappearance in December. So I don't know if any of you have ever been to Alaska. Not only have I been to Alaska, but I live there. And I don't know that November is the optimal time to go.
I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I understand he's 22 years old. He's going to see a girl.
A girl that may or may not have wanted to see him, by the way.
I think we're about to get to that. But it's already odd that he's traveling to Alaska in November.
And Glenn had also not ever met this girl. Trevor met this girls on his own, and Glenn said he had never met her.
Okay.
She wasn't in Ireland for long.
Okay.
And then when they were on a night out, just like buddies do, they're a couple of pints in, and Glenn says, "I bet you won't go see her." And
being his age, he probably said, "Well, you never know," and I bet you I will.
You got a free flight from your buddy Glenn.
Yes.
So he goes to Alaska because he had met these couple of girls, and apparently he emailed or called one of these girls, and the girl gets back to him and says she's too busy, and Trevor says, "I'm only free now. I've got this time now. I'm going to come over." Not a great plan.
And this is the only time I have seen the female's name mentioned. First name only, no last name.
Michelle.
No, Michelle was the sister. Michelle saw a reply to the email to where she said she was too busy at the moment and she was trying to get, her final exams taken care of. But Trevor sort of said, "Oh, Janie, I'm only free now and we'll be very busy in the office and I don't know when I'll get away again." So he persisted and went on his way to see Janie.
So he goes on this Alaskan venture, and we don't really know what happens because he comes home and he gets back, goes to his parents' house. His parents are busy, probably working, etc. He's jet lagged from going from Alaska to LAX to Ireland and back again. And so, he's trying to talk about the trip. His parents are busy. They cook dinner for him, etc. He talked a little bit about the icebergs he had seen in Anchorage. So he went to Anchorage.
Yeah, that's where the girls were going to school, which to me is, if he's there for a short time and he's seeing the icebergs, that means that he was turned away when he got to Alaska.
So that leads me to my theory. I know you had talked about Glenn. Did you want to dive any more into that before I get into mine? I know you've got some suspicions about old Glenny boy.
Yeah, I do. And just to kind of recap, I just find it and I don't know that it's a theory, but my suspicions, my questions are more towards Glenn with the two missed phone calls, the not returning the call, the fact that it was the one and only time he had ever left his phone downstairs to be on the charger, and he deleted the voicemail that his friend left, and now he's never been seen again. So yeah, I've got my suspicions about Glenny boy.
Glenn works in an airport too. Could have stuffed Trevor in a bag that was going to BFE and...
Well, who would have stuffed that bag?
Glenn.
Okay. You don't think anybody else might have done it? Sorry, I was trying to segue into your thoughts here.
I don't know who Glenn knows. Glenn might be Irish mob for all we know. That's just
Well, Glenn is a flight attendant, and he does hit the larger airports that, working for Aer Lingus, which obviously is international flights, guys. So anyway, yes, I have a lot of questions about this whole Glenn thing that I've never seen discussed. If you have seen those, all the questions that I have discussed and refuted, please let me know, because the questions I specifically have not been addressed.
So here's my theory. You're talking about a young man who went to Alaska, and I'm just going to say it, uninvited.
Yes.
He reached out, his love interest,
unrequited,
said, I'm too busy, and he went anyway. So here's my thought. I think potentially two things. One, I'm going to go away from the story I was just telling. I think at 4:00 in the morning, he could have met up with a law enforcement officer and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And the guy said, "Go F yourself." And Trevor said, go F yourself back. And he could have got offed, because as you read this story and as you dive into it, the police seem kind of disinterested. I mean, even though it was one of the largest searches, his friends had to go out and get the footage for them to see Trevor on his last venture.
And they never even went to go back to retrieve that deleted voicemail on Glenn's phone.
Or really look at the email or what he might have done on his bank computer.
Exactly. All we know is it was no big deal.
Yeah.
What he do, it was no big deal.
He's fine.
Well, 25 years later, is it still no big deal?
Well, 25 years later, I don't know if there's an IT person alive that can figure out what Trevor was doing in that bank, because the technology has soared to new heights. I mean,
sure.
But and we can't look at DNA. We can't call Othram and say, "Hey, can you look into this case?" Because nothing has been found from Trevor.
Nothing. Nothing.
We can't emphasize this enough. There is no trace of Trevor from that night. None. So he either ran into a police officer and they had an unpleasant exchange. Somehow he ran into the Irish mob at 4 a.m, which is not unheard of.
No, and I understand this particular area that he was in. I've heard that it's I don't want to say seedy, but there were dalliances with illicit activities, both of the drug nature and work nature.
One of the oldest professions.
Yes.
And I want to discount something too. There's a couple of YouTube videos out there, et cetera. If you want to look more into this case, you can. We're just two talking heads giving you our theories. But there's this canal that he was walking along.
The Grand Canal. It ran all through the apartment area where he lived, but
Sure.
apparently it's very long.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
He's not in that canal.
No.
I know they did a dive and they searched a certain area, and there's people that say he could have washed down the canal, went out there. He ain't in that canal. There is no way that he ended up in that canal and they didn't find something. Something would have turned up. Something out of his wallet, a watch, a key, something.
A shred of clothing.
Something would have turned up out of that canal. He didn't go in that canal.
If he did, he came out and he's not there anymore.
The only way he went in that canal is if somebody had a hidden crane that dug a hole in the bottom of the canal and they put Trevor in it and then they covered it up quietly. He's not in that canal, period. Let's go back to the Alaska trip. I think what happened is he went up to Alaska, again, uninvited, to see this co-ed, and he most likely ran into some trouble in Alaska. What they like to do in Alaska besides freeze, they like to fish. And it's not just, hey, let's go grab our rod and reel and go out and catch a couple of fish, throw them in the back of the truck and go home. This is an industry. And this is also an industry that was hit very hard in the late 1990s. Alaska's seafood processors had 500 fewer jobs in 1998, the year before. The fishing industry as a whole, looking for crabs to process, not the sexual disease, but looking for
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Looking for crabs to process was down. Now, let's take a look at the seasons just real quick. I think this is fun. So, for Alaska crab fishing, the red king crab, they typically fish for those mid-October to mid-January. These times fluctuate depending on weather, etc., just like any other industry, especially outdoors. The blue king crab, they usually fish for those in the winter months into the spring.
Right.
Snow crab is mid-October through mid-May. Snow crab, they look for those half a year. 6 months on, 6 months off. And the golden king crab, that usually starts in January and ends in February or March. That's a very short time.
Yes, and those are big money.
Yeah, big money. And the fishing market's down in Alaska right around 1998, 99. So guys are looking for jobs. They've collected money, but the fishing jobs continue to go down. So the jobs are at a premium to get. What was it you told me about the crews when they go out? They have these big crews.
They do have big crews. So when you're doing these fishing in Alaska. So okay, I'm going to use it as an example because my words are hard. So if you've ever watched the TV show Deadliest Catch, just kind of have that kind of picture in your mind. They have a crew that goes out each season, is what they call it. And sometimes you need your full crew and sometimes you don't. You still have, let's say it's a 12-person crew and you're going on a big fish. You're going to take your entire 12 people. Well, if you're going on a smaller fish for a shorter period of time, you might only need 7. So while they're still part of your crew, they're not part of this fish, if that makes sense.
So if you've got a crew and you're not necessarily calling in sick, it sounds like you kind of have an option if you want to go out on the crew. Now, if you take the option of not going out with the crew 1 week, you might not have a job the next week, because
it's quite possible. And sometimes you have to do the bidding. If things are really tough, you have to do the bidding to get on the crew. And
I'm so glad you said bidding, because that's exactly what I think happened here. Trevor went over to see this co-ed from Alaska,
Janie,
and
Janie's got a gun. Sorry.
I don't know if Janie had a gun, but I think somebody did. So he goes over uninvited, and he is greeted at the door by Janie and possibly someone who may or may not have had a job that was Janie's boyfriend or significant other. So Janie was in Ireland off on holiday, and she may or may not have been looking to get a little frisky while she was in Ireland. I'm away from that guy. That guy may not be right for me. I don't know. I'm going through some changes, whatever. And I think that he was met by someone who didn't want him there and told him so much. Not only do you get away from this house, you get the F out of Alaska.
Ooh.
And don't come back. So Trevor does that, says, okay, I'm good. So Trevor goes and looks at icebergs in Anchorage, because that's what you want to do on holiday. And then he takes off back to Ireland. That gives boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, semi-boyfriend, whatever he is, that gives him time to stew. Janie, what exactly did you do over in Ireland that this guy would travel all the way here, even though you allegedly told him no? What did you do over there that would have made this guy buy a ticket? Because he doesn't know about the frequent flyer thing, the friends and friends do.
Buddy pass.
Buddy pass. What did you do that made this guy fly from Ireland to Alaska to see you when you and I are together? So that gave him, when Trevor left, that gave him time to stew. If he had a job in Alaska's fishing industry, he was getting paid. You don't go out on that boat to make $8 an hour.
Oh, God, no. You get paid per pound.
Not even in 1999. You ain't on that boat for $8 an hour.
No.
So this guy's got cash. And if he's not on a crew, if he just finished with a job, or if he's pissed off enough to go, hey, you know what? I got greenbacks. I think this guy took off to Ireland and scouted Trevor, because he works on a boat. He knows how to get rid of something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think this guy got pissed off, and the Irish cops, if they're not going to go look for the CCTV footage and they're not going to search his computer, they damn sure aren't going to go to Alaska to interview anybody. I think jealous boyfriend, but possibly jealous husband. I don't know her situation, Janie, but I think that guy had the motive. If you've ever listened to this podcast, there are 3 reasons for murder. And that's money, that's anger or revenge. Those kind of go together. And there's sex. And there are potentially all 3 of those wrapped up in this case.
Trevor did work for a bank.
But if the guy had that financial means, pissed off, angry, and thinks that his girlfriend, wife, fiance, whatever, went over to Ireland and got the 2-pump chuck along with a pint, he's pissed off. He thinks she's had sex. I think that there is something to this. I really do feel like there is some. Now, it could have been her brother. We don't know if she has a brother or not. It could have been a family member. It could have been dad for all we know. But I think the most likely is that 1, he ended up meeting up with a police officer. 2, somehow ended up meeting up with the Irish mob. I don't think that seedy neighborhood, I don't think they're going to make him completely disappear. Not for 25 years. But I do think that someone that works in Alaska in the fishing industry, which is very lucrative, they were losing jobs, but losing jobs, you're making more money because there's less crew. That guy had the financial means. He had the opportunity because that fishing is fairly seasonal, as we drew out. I think there's a man behind this whole thing, and I don't think that man was in Ireland at the time that this was thought out. I think he went from Alaska, maybe to LAX, who cares? I think he went from Alaska to Ireland. He took care of his problem, and he and Janie probably are not together anymore.
I would say probably not. And they did, allegedly, the Irish police did go to Alaska, and there was nothing of concern to them. But that seems to be the MO in this case. There was nothing of concern to the police throughout it all. So I don't know. You got a little fired up with that, and now my wheels are turning.
And nothing's going to happen from it. We've given the police there a couple of really solid theories that have been thought out, and nothing's going to happen. His family is going to continue to wonder where he is because, again, there's no DNA. There's nothing left. He is gone.
Just gone.
Nothing left. No trace.
0. That has got to be an absolute nightmare for this family.
And, you know, we hate to sit and talk about this, especially for somebody who's departed, but it has to be out there. If we don't talk about Trevor, nothing's ever going to happen with law enforcement. Nobody's ever going to continue to search for him. So,
and in this case, you know what we have to keep searching for? The last clue.
The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information about this case, please email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com.